All right, hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Chase Thomas Podcast, where I'm still the aforementioned Chase Thomas, coming to you live from Knoxville, Tennessee. Everything School HQ. Big week here on Rocky Top. Got graduation. It's folks hearing this a day out. So very cool there to be in TBA on that front. I kind of wish it was at Neyland, but it's going to be really cold Friday and Saturday, so I'm actually kind of glad because it's going to be a long ceremony, and I kind of don't want to freeze to death outside in Neyland. So it worked out in that way, but fun times here on Rocky Top. Chase Dolander coming out preseason MLB Pipeline #1 pick for the 2023 Major League Baseball draft. So like we've always said in this podcast, all things coming up Chase in Tennessee. Chase Dolander, Chase Burns, Chase Thomas, it doesn't matter. Chase is in Tennessee are a net positive at all times. Matt Green, how are things down in Character Issues USA, sir?
Character Issues USA. Oh, man. Todd McShay. We just going to get into that? Like, Todd McShay, you're one of the biggest draft experts there is. Just out of the blue saying Jalen Carter with character issues. Never heard a peep of Jalen Carter with any sort of character issues. If anything, the character it took to pick a grown man up like he did and just not slam him down like his instinct would tell him to do. That showed all kinds of self-control. But I don't really know, like, maybe he, like, you know, I'm not going to vouch for Jalen Carter. I don't know him as a person, you know, like maybe some of this is true and he knows people at a certain level, but just looking from an outside perspective, it's like he's a guy that was like splitting a lot of snaps, like for the last 2 years on like a loaded defensive line. Like he was arguably the best defensive lineman on that team from day one. It's like, you didn't hear anything about him complaining about playing time or like Jermaine Johnson. Like he was splitting reps too at outside linebacker. He went to the portal. He went to Florida State, somewhere he could play, ended up being a first round pick. It's like Jalen Carter could have done something like that if he wanted to get quicker playing time or something. But so I don't know. I don't know where it comes from, like at all. Like I don't know. But yeah, so we'll see.
But I will say it's always weird to me, and this is like if it's a Tennessee thing or Georgia thing, this is something that sports fans do that's really strange, and I push back against this, and I always have. It's just like you don't know these guys personally. You might know some, like if you're fortunate enough to like grow up with one of these guys, or you just become friendly over the years covering them, and you kind of get to know them better if they go into media after or something. Like there are instances where athletes we can get to know athletes on a more personal and level, and you have a better feel for them. But like, you don't know Jalen Carter, so just to see the Georgia fans like immediately jump out, and it's just the same with Tennessee fans. If anyone were to attack any Cedric Tillman for anything, it's like, I mean, I haven't heard anything that would surprise me, but like, I don't know Cedric Tillman personally, and Georgia fans don't know Jalen Carter personally. But it's always funny to see when that stuff gets out. Immediately all the fans are like, what is this crap? He's this and this. And it's like, you live in Waycross, Georgia, and what are you talking about? You never met the guy. Like, you don't know.
No, that's fair, but there are some things that are like public, you know, like guys can, you know, smoke some weed, or they can steal a laptop. They can, but I'm just saying I don't think that that's a character issue, but I'm just saying there can be whatever you can. Certain people consider that a red flag, you know?
Yeah.
I don't, but some people could. It's a data point, you know? But just as far as that goes, from a fan perspective of people who are super dialed in, there really hasn't been like one word about Jalen Carter. And I have seen multiple Georgia players going to Twitter too, like just talking like, how is he in the locker room? He's awesome and whatever, vouching for his character. But yeah, you're definitely right. Like, in general, like it was like Roddy White when all the Deshaun Watson stuff was coming out, and Roddy White's just going off at the mouth of, oh, you can't, yada yada. It's like, you don't know this man, dude. Like, you don't know what he did in private. Like, don't put your reputation on the line with him. But yeah, Jalen Carter, to me, He's the best player, non-quarterback, maybe the best player in general going to the draft next year, but definitely the best non-quarterback in my opinion. So I don't know. It feels like a fake story for someone who wants him to slide to 4 or 5 overall in the draft or something. But who knows?
I'm more interested in who told him, like where it came from. Like that interests me more than anything else. Of just like, did that come from a coach, a staffer?
Also, me too. But you heard the clip, right? Mm-mm. Where he's like, so he's talking about it, and he's like, and Pete Carroll's a guy who's got like a good track record of taking some guys who might be questionable character. So at 2 overall, that makes sense. So it's like, well, if he goes second overall, then is this even a story? Like, what are we even talking about? Oh, this is just Pete Carroll. He's just a great human that took a chance on a troubled kid. It's like, what are we even talking about? He goes second overall, then yeah, that's probably where he would have gone to begin with. You didn't have to throw his character out there to everybody 5 months before the draft.
Yeah. But I just say people get latched onto these guys and they think they know them because they spend time watching their games. So they'll watch interviews and stuff like that. And they're like, I know who that guy is. It's like, you don't. Like, you watched Aaron Murray throw a lot of football passes with George over the years. He started for 4 years. It feels like you knew him because he was around for so long, but you don't know him. Matt Green.
Yeah, I know Aaron Murray, all right?
Yeah,
I saw him. I saw him throw a lot of footballs, all right? We connected from that.
Exactly.
Gave his heart and soul to that university.
I will say, like, I was on campus walking around with my wife on Saturday afternoon, and it was funny because I saw the 3 Tennessee recruits who were on officials that weekend. They walked by us, and I look at them, I'm like, I can't really say anything when I do this. I'm just like, I have nothing to say. Like, I've seen Zakai Ziegler on campus like 17 times, but like I did a couple awkward waves the first couple, and then he like did it. I was like, I don't know you, and it was like, what am I doing? Why am I waving at this guy? Like, he doesn't know me. And I don't know him. Like, what are we doing? Like, I don't know what I'm doing. Yeah, it's just.
Hey, there you are. Do I know you? No, but that's where you are. You're there. I think you give it. My thing has always been like I give it a go dogs. It's like, I know who you are. I'm not gonna be a groupie, but go dogs. So I feel like that's always go dogs. Go dogs. Like, saw Hines Ward golfing one time. Like, saw Brian McClendon at the grocery store one time. It's like, hey, I know who you are.
Yeah. You're that guy who coaches bad offenses. How
dare you? Hey, coach some great wide receivers, all right?
Do you see that new South Carolina hire? Dow Laganes? I don't know how to pronounce his name. Dow Logans?
I saw the Shane Beamer clip of really, really defending it very strongly for about 2 minutes.
I mean, for me, it's a dream come true. It did not go well for him in Chicago. Not a lot of positive stops there in the NFL for Dow. So we'll see. Don't know him personally, but the offenses were not great. And if you just ask some Bears fans or Titans fans about the Dow experience, not great. But, South Carolina, he might have figured it out by November of next year. That's when South Carolina's season starts. People forget that. South Carolina is college football's November team.
That's very true. I might get a second coach of the year next year in 2023, but I don't know if it's Shakespeare, but the doth protest too much, I think is the expression. That's how it felt. Shane Beamer, like, just going off the media. I bet you didn't know that. Did you know he had four other SEC teams already contacted this guy? I bet you didn't know that. Did you know he worked? I was like, bro, if it's a good hire, just say we think it's a good hire, and results will speak for themselves. Like, it was just a little too defensive. I don't know. You'll have to see the clip, but it was a
little insecure.
It was a little cringe, yeah.
Some might say that's been the entire 2-year experience to this point.
They're 8-4 right now. You can't talk shit about South Carolina going 8-4. That's a good season.
10-2. Tennessee's got the number 9 class.
They're not
right now.
Tennessee. Why are we comparing? Is that where Tennessee's at, or is Tennessee compared to South Carolina?
No, we're just because of the coach of the year stuff. This all stems from how it started and them getting co-coach of the year when Beamer got just skull crushed in Knoxville, Tennessee, and they still
It's
share
like
the award.
Heupel won Coach of the Year this year from some outlets, and Georgia crushed them, right? So it's
They didn't crush them. Hold on. No, Georgia crushed South Carolina. Georgia
didn't crush Tennessee?
No. I can show you the scoreboard. We can go back through. And also the difference, that was in South Carolina. Y'all were home. Y'all were at home.
Oh, I mean, it was definitely a worse beatdown they put on.
It was the loudest atmosphere.
But I'm just saying, like, losing one game head to head doesn't determine the Coach of the Year. Because I mean, like, for this reason right here, that's why Tennessee is on a different level than South Carolina, is because they just had a good season at 8-4. Like, Tennessee would have been fine with Josh Heupel if they went 8-4 this year. Like, it was a pretty tough schedule. There just would not be a just excitement around the program. Like, they're like the next team to potentially become a powerhouse, kind of like this hype that's around them. But it would have been like, they went 7-5, lose the bowl game.
Who?
7-6.
You're talking about Tennessee
last year?
7-6, yeah. 7-5.
So 7-5 year, followed up with an 8-4. It's like,
really won the bowl game. I don't know if you saw that spot in that.
Yeah, they did. But it's like it would be progression. There would be nothing excitement. They wouldn't be this like sexy team like with potential Heisman finalists and everything. But it would still been a successful season. But it's not this is why they're two different programs. Is because Tennessee can go from where they were to an actual contender much quicker than someone like South Carolina. But I don't know how we got off on that tangent.
I have a gift for pivoting this back to Tennessee and South Carolina, Macri. Blitnikoff winner Jalen Hyatt declares for the draft this week. So he's gone. Cedric Tillman's gone. But that's really good for Tennessee because they need to get these guys in the NFL, and it does so much for recruiting. I mean, you're seeing it at Georgia where you put so many guys in the draft, like it just recruits itself. Like guys want to get to the league. The 5 and 4 stars want to get to the league, and you have to start putting these names in the league. And Tennessee had not been doing that. To the extent they obviously had their blips with like the Alvin Kamaras and Derek Barnett's and Eric Berry's years ago, but you need to have a lot more in a row. And Jalen Hyatt looks like he's going to be a first rounder. Cedric Tillman's probably late first, second. Just getting 2 wide receivers right like that early is just huge for this program because you need to have those guys in the league. Have you seen that wall at Bama where they just have all these different NFL jerseys for their guys and NFL helmets?
Oh, yeah.
And you just go in. Yeah, that's what you got to do. That's the reason Alabama is number 1.
Oak Hill started that though back in the day.
It's cold though. It's such a good flex, and it
is.
It pops for every kid who walks in the door.
And Georgia's got like the running ticker of like the amount of money Georgia alumni have made in the NFL. It's like all kinds of facts about like.
Wait, do they have that?
Yeah, like they definitely flex on like how much money their player, because I mean they got some huge contract. I think Justin Houston at the time was the biggest defense linebacker contract of all time. I think like when he signed that probably with Kansas City then.
It had to be Kansas City, yeah.
And Stafford got like so much money. Like he was like him and Bradford like the last rookie quarterbacks that got in before they started capping those rookie contracts, but yeah, they definitely, because I mean, putting guys in the second round picks, like that's as selling your program just as good as a New Year's Six Bowl, like probably better than New Year's Six Bowls. Like it's just as good as the championships,
Yeah, but it also doesn't work on everybody. Arian Carter, 4-star linebacker, commit number 25 in this top 10 class for Tennessee, which has been extremely defensive heavy. 247 Sports, different outlets and different experts, Bud Elliott and company. I was reading their thoughts on him because it's like I'm not grinding Smyrna tape over here, Smyrna Bulldogs tape. But Arian started the year as a running back commit for Memphis and then finished the year as a 4-star recruit that Tennessee and Alabama were battling to be their full-time middle linebacker. They think he's going to be on the field sooner rather than later. This class has Jeremiah Thielander, the Gainesville linebacker who went off in that state title game for Gainesville where they came up just short in the 6A title game against Langston Hughes on Friday night. And then you have Jalen Smith from Grayson, who's also in this class. So very, very stacked class. But I saw it was Jack Luttrell, Chandavian Bradley, who's the number 1 edge. So you get Caleb Herring. You get up and down the list, Sylvester Smith. Jordan Matthews, the 5-star corner from Baton Rouge, is enrolled. So they're all at bowl practice. Nico arrived today. This class mixed with the guys going pro and just the upside here, and they're all going to be able to go through bowl practice in Miami and everything. It's just a nice little bow for Aaron Carter to pick Tennessee over Alabama. Like, Tennessee won another big recruiting war against Alabama or Georgia. It's nice to see. Nature is healing, Matt Green.
I'm not sure how many battles they've won over Alabama and Georgia in this specific cycle, because Alabama
David
and
Hobbs,
Georgia
who beat Georgia
are really cleaning up in this. I don't think anyone's catching Alabama in this.
No, they're not catching Alabama. Alabama's won. I think they're gonna be fine. Because right now it's Bama 1, UGA 2, Notre Dame 3, Texas 4, Ohio State 5, Oklahoma 6, Miami 7, LSU 8, Tennessee 9, Florida 10.
Okay. So, yeah, we're about a week till signing day. So things should be interesting, even though it's idiotic that we're putting signing day right here in the middle of all this. I don't know if you heard Josh Pate. I think Josh Pate's been listening to the show, honestly. Did you hear his rant about December? I was like, I feel like I said this exact same thing.
It's so funny that you bring this up, because I was listening to that because I think he did that on the Sunday show, right? Because I listened to it on Monday morning as I was walking around, and when he was doing that segment, I literally had jotted it down in like my other notes to be like, oh, bring up to Matt. That's a potential podcast topic, because like Matt has spent so much time, and us have spent so much time on this, that he just spent a lot of time talking about how it doesn't make sense, and it's created by people that don't actually coach or deal with the football program. They're crafting these calendars that don't make sense, when it's just like, why are coaches having to pick between taking a new job or coaching their team in conference title games? Why are we why is the schedule this way? I'm not sure I'm agreeing with the early signing day being before the season starts. Like, that's early, man. I don't know if you're going to be able to pull that.
No, I definitely agree with that one, because that's truly early. Like, that's what college basketball has done for years. Like, guys will actually sign before their senior year in high school. And then it's like, that's a truly, like, I'm done with the recruiting process.
Right.
Like, let me sign my letter of intent. Schools stop recruiting me. Like, I don't, just... That would be
enjoy my senior year.
The December thing was just like, oh, we're just going to fast forward the whole process, like 2 months. It was like, wait, well, that doesn't really make any sense at all. Like, certain programs, like a Georgia, who actually had an established coach in 2018 when this first early signing day happened, like, anyone who hasn't had to hire a coach from 2018 and on has just, I think it's really benefited their recruiting, because every team is just, you get that new coach, and then now you're starting to punt. Now you got the portal, so you're just going to try to just punt this first class altogether, and then try to hit the portal, and then try to maybe next year get your first good class. It's like, it's just, and Josh Pate brought up another good point that I really didn't even think about either. Like, everyone at their job right now understands what work is like. It's like, it's basically Christmas for like 3 weeks. It's like no one's really working. Like, everyone's just chilling, taking it easy. It's like you got Christmas right in there among all this just madness on the having to recruit and prep for bowl games and all this. And take new jobs. It's just craziness. Yeah. If we had it in August, July, like he said, before the season, and then another one in March where you could start to get NFL coaching spots fill up, and then trickle down to college and everything. It would just be, coaches wouldn't all have to be like just shady in some way.
Yeah.
It's like, well, you just recruited me. You said you were going to be here for the next 3 or 4 years, and now you're at the Dallas Cowboys. So what's that about? Like, so it would make it so much cleaner. Like Brian Kelly, Cincinnati playing in the Sugar Bowl. Mm-hmm. This wasn't even an early signing day thing, but Cincinnati playing in the Sugar Bowl against Florida. Like, that's the biggest game in Cincinnati history. And guy just bounces. Like, head coach just not going to coach the biggest game in school history. And he honestly couldn't, because he needed to get started on his new job. But I don't know. You put coaches in a really bad position. I feel like they should push the thing back. And like Luke Fickell last year, like, what are the odds that Luke Fickell was interested in going to maybe Notre Dame or another big-time job last year? And I mean, you couldn't justify that. Cincinnati's actually in the playoff, has a chance to win the national championship, and Now he's at Wisconsin a year later, but I don't know. It throws off the whole calendar. I don't even know how we got off on that too, but I can talk about that forever.
Absolutely. Maybe that's another just a main theme pod in the future, Matt Green, during this offseason. Travyeon Henderson, former 5-star running back from the Buckeyes, will not be playing in the college football playoff. He was ruled out with his foot still ailing him. So we'll see if it's a heavy dose of Hayden in this game against Tennessee. No Jackson Smith, against University of Georgia. No Jackson Smith and Jigba, as we already know. Any big question marks for Georgia on the injury front? Is there any big names that you're worried about are not going to play to this point? Because we know a couple now with Ohio State. Is there anybody out that could be a problem for Georgia?
For Georgia, I don't really think so. Like, I haven't really heard anything about Ladd McConkey. Like, he left the SEC championship right there, like right before the half. But Nolan Smith obviously out for the season since mid-October. But yeah, I think this is big. I think one of the things for Ohio State, I think, to be able to beat Georgia is they need, some of these individual playmakers to be able to win some one-on-one matchups. So the hope of Jackson Smith and Jigba coming back, that was always kind of slim to me, because it's like, well, clearly this is like a lingering injury. Like, it's been around all year. Like, the Michigan game was a big game. Like, if he was going to come back, like, that was a game to come back. So
right.
I wouldn't, you basically haven't had him all year. Travyeon Henderson's obviously had some injuries, but for him to already be ruled out, that's big. So, Ohio State's been productive just about whoever they've put back there, but that could be big.
For sure. Mike Leach unfortunately passed away this week at 61 years old. Just unbelievable to read all the different pieces from all the different people he touched, and it was funny to go back and like watch all the different clips, like him just popping into Friday Night Lights. I just forgot that he was in one of those scenes with Coach Taylor, and just gave great advice. And there was one moment that I forgot who posted it, but like Heupel and Leach, before Leach took the Texas Tech job, when he was at offensive coordinator and under Bob Stoops at Oklahoma. And the day before he took the Texas Tech job, he's like seen on the video telling Heupel the news and just getting really emotional, and you can tell he just really cared. And I mean, he was just a big deal. His offense changed a lot of programs, changed the sport in a multitude of ways, and never won a national title, but he was just, obviously, I think the most memorable game for him is still beating Texas. It's funny, I remember where I was when Crabtree scored his touchdown late to beat the Horns in Lubbock, but he was his own dude. I love the video of him blowing on the coffee during that press conference for the bowl game against Michigan State when he was at Wazoo. Like, Mark D'Antonio is just up there speaking, and he's pushed to the side, sitting down, just like blowing, trying to cool off his coffee so he can take a sip. The guy, I can appreciate, just kind of lived in his own world and just did his own thing and didn't care what other people thought. And just, that was Mike Leach. He was doing Mike Leach things, and clearly had a big impact on all kinds of people that knew him and knew him well. And 61's just too young, and it's just sad. And you feel terrible for the Mississippi State football program. They move quick. Zach Arnett is officially their head coach, took the interim tag off, so he's going to get the full opportunity to lead this program going forward. But man, I cannot imagine what that staff and what that university and family is going through right now, because it was quick. And I don't know. I think Leach, the most interesting thing like on the field for him, because I didn't know him personally, is just that like he was at Wazoo, he was at Texas Tech, and he was at Mississippi State. 3 universities I don't think can ever win the title. And he's just one of those guys I wondered forever. Like, he almost became the Tennessee coach a couple of years ago. And like what he would have been like at one of the, like at Auburn or something, or even Alabama. Instead of the Shula years, you have Mike Leach, or just what Leach's offense is and what his teams would have done in like a top 5, top 10 football budget. university if that would have led to a title or something. It's always an interesting what if, because the man could coach and he won wherever he went, whether it was Texas Tech, Wazoo, or Mississippi State. He hired well, developed well, and he stuck to his scheme, and he's a great coach, and he will be missed by so many people.
Yeah, without a doubt. Mike Leach, he definitely changed the sport. Like, he maybe changed football altogether. Like, I honestly, his air raid style, like, it completely changed college football. From his days at Kentucky, I mean, even going further back to Valdosta State before Kentucky. But yeah, if you go back, his 24 years as a offensive coordinator or head coach, his teams had a top 10 passing offense in 22 of those 24 years. They had a top 3 passing offense in 17 of those years, and they were the number 1 passing offense in the country 10 of the 24 years where he was OC or head coach. So he was just the passing offenses that they had, like you said, Texas Tech, 2008, I want to say. That's one of the greatest games like ever. Like, there's always, I mean, there's probably 50 of the games you said that about now at this point in your life, but just, you're sitting around with a group of friends or something and the game finishes, you're like, that's one of the greatest games I've ever seen. Like, that's definitely had that reaction to that Texas Tech, to that Crabtree touchdown catch. But yeah, man, Mike Leach, he was one of a kind. It's only fitting that this bowl game they're playing in Tampa Bay there's a pirate ship in the end zone. So yeah, Mike Leach, it's a super sad RIP for sure.
In terms of the transfer portal, which is going crazy, I saw that Grayson McCall was visiting Auburn this week, which he's in the portal obviously because his coach Jamie Chadwell departs to Liberty. Man, Grayson McCall at Auburn with Hugh Freeze in that offense would be very interesting. Also, I don't know what that means for Robbie Ashford, but I don't think we saw enough from Robbie last year to be like, this is our guy. We gotta stick with Robbie going forward. But Grayson McCall there would be quite interesting. If I'm an Auburn fan, I think they hired Philip Montgomery, the recently fired Tulsa head coach, who was there for a long time as their new OC. So looking at Hugh Freeze's staff to this point, pretty strong opening staff. Colorado with Dion has a really strong staff as well. But very interested to see how that ultimately unfolds and what they do in the portal. But my question to you, Matt Green, your favorite transfer move thus far has been who?
Well, there hasn't been many. This honestly could be one of my favorites when it's all said and done. But definitely my favorite so far is Jaheim Bell to Florida State. I think that's got to be very disheartening for South Carolina if that is going to be a turning point for the program, right? The way they finished the season to lose Jaheim Bell to Florida State, now Marshawn Lloyd in the portal. Like, those are definitely two of the core pieces you were building your offense around. So that's the reality that college football is in 2022, unfortunately. But yeah, Jaheim Bell, he's just a dynamic playmaker. You saw him play some running back for South Carolina. Like, I think if this guy's in an offense that knows how to use him, I think he could really make some plays.
Yeah, and I think too, I mean, they lost Stogner back to Oklahoma, which, can you explain to me why he's eligible to play right away to go back to Oklahoma? Is he a grad transfer? Is that why he's able to play right away at Oklahoma?
I mean, who's not immediately eligible?
Well, you'd only get one still. You still have to get a waiver to get number 2. Like, you're still not immediately eligible to just transfer multiple times.
I mean, how many have we seen already? There's Hudson Card. There's JT Daniels. I mean, they're both in the portal, though.
No, what I'm saying is like a year to sit out. Like, you still have to sit out a year if you.
But Hudson Card started at. I'm thinking Jackson Dart, not Hudson.
Yeah.
I think his USC transfer. Yeah, but JT Daniels, like he did get
transfer.
A waiver from Georgia, but that was for the first one, and then he's at West Virginia, and now wherever else he's going. Like, I don't know that anybody needs a waiver anymore.
I think you technically do, but I mean,
like, I was going down to 24/7's list, their transfer portal list, and they have the immediate eligible and like how many years, and they all say immediate eligible. So like I'm not even sure why this is on the spreadsheet there, but maybe there are some that aren't, but it seems like everyone's just going and no one has to sit out at all, but I could be wrong about that.
Yeah, and I also think, especially like if you go back to the original place you were at, you should have to sit out for the year. Like, what are we doing? Like, then it's like you shouldn't have left to begin with. What you left and then came right back.
But what's the logic behind that? Like, I mean, if you transferred, like why is what JT Daniels is doing better than what Austin Stogner's doing? You know, going to a different school versus going. Now Stogner's only gone to 2 different schools. That at least seems, you know, a little less crazy. But yeah, it's really weird looking to see a guy. Hey, he's pulling the Stetson Bennett, right? He had to rehab over in South Carolina and then come back to Oklahoma.
Yeah, I think it's funny that Cade McNamara is pretty hyped about his Iowa. He's like, yeah, keep talking about us.
He's talking like Joe Burrow,
yes.
2019 SEC media days. Like, oh. Yeah, I'm pretty sure we're gonna be good. Trust me.
Which is amazing because if Cade McNamara was the guy who he's been held back by what Michigan was asking him to do, and he just walks into Iowa, and they really do just sling it around next year, and Cade McNamara is just lighting it up in Big Ten country, I'm here for it.
Yeah, I'm here for it, but it'll make the Big Ten West a little more interesting. But I mean, what are the odds? Like what? We've never seen an Iowa offense like that. Like we got to go to Brad Banks when the last time they had a dynamic quarterback, like Drew Tate.
I was gonna say Drew Tate's
involved. What is that, 2006? Like Drew Tate's a long time ago.
Ricky Stanzi had some juice to him.
Like I said, I stand by what he said.
CJ Beathard was fun. He was moving around in the pocket. He went in the NFL. Hey, he's still in the NFL.
And we've seen what Iowa's offenses have been. So, yeah, Cade, I love the confidence. But
I do, too.
We'll see.
I think the most interesting to me who's actually committed in the portal is Isaiah Holden. Like, I thought he was a really good player coming out of high school, and now he goes to Oregon. It looks like he's just going to replace...
Travyeon Holden.
Or Travyeon Holden. And I think he's going to be a good player in Oregon. I think Oregon's doing pretty good work. But I also think it's kind of weird that they bring in him, and then Thornton... in the portal, and he's a strong Tennessee target. So we'll see if he ends up at Tennessee, because Tennessee's for sure going to add one big name portal guy, especially with Jalen Hyatt departing the NFL. With there's a bunch of talent in the receiver room at UT right now, but you don't want to go into next year counting on 2 young guys in this game. You want one, which is probably gonna be Squirrel White in that slot for Jalen, but Brew taking over the said spot, and then a Ra Thomas or a Thornton. What is it? Derek Thornton? What is his name? Dante Thornton, the Oregon speedster who's in the portal.
I'm not 100%. Yeah, Dante Thornton.
Yeah. So we'll see. We'll see ultimately. I also wonder too with South Carolina. It's like Stogner, Marshawn Lloyd, and Jaheim Bell all out, and it's like if you're Spencer Rattler. I know he just signed a new NIL deal with like Mercedes in Columbia, but what are you? Right? Yeah, what are we coming back to at this point? But it's also like I wonder what kind of grade he is, because everything I've looked at mock wise, he's not in the top 5. Like he's not a top 5 quarterback.
No, he would hit the portal before he hit the draft, especially this draft. Like this is a pretty deep quarterback draft. And like if you're a questionable, like especially for a guy that has question marks, like. They're taking Will Levis and Anthony Richardson over any of the other guys with question marks. Like those guys at least have like the upside. But yeah, so I would. I mean, he's nowhere close to. He's not a top 10 quarterback if he comes out in this class. No, I wouldn't. You taking Spencer Rattler over Stetson Bennett?
Yes.
Are you?
Yeah, there's no question.
I'm not taking Spencer. I might not draft either, but if you got a flyer in the 7th round, I'd much rather spend it on Stetson Bennett than Spencer Rattler. I mean, what has Spencer Rattler really done?
Well, the best of Spencer Rattler
played well versus Tennessee.
Yeah. The best of Spencer Rattler is a really good player. The best of Stetson's still not an NFL player. Like I just
the disrespect.
It's not disrespect, man. He's just not an NFL player. And that's I'm not sure Hendon Hooker is an NFL quarterback. But Matt Green, speaking of quarterback you're most interested seeing where they land in the portal is who?
Probably Devin Leary, because I feel like Devin Leary, is good enough to make someone just like instantly a contender.
Yeah.
Like someone who's like a quarterback away type of thing. I don't know necessarily who that would be off the top of my head. Maybe someone like Tennessee, but I'm not sure. They probably want a guy more with a running threat.
Yeah, he's not on Tennessee's radar.
No, is Tennessee looking for the portal? Like, are they?
Here's the thing with
looking at a guy
Tennessee,
like
though. They're in a
Grayson
weird
McCall?
bind. The reason, and this is another just timeline here, Tennessee, there's 2 windows now at the portal, right? There's one now, and there's one after spring practice. Tavon Jackson is currently hurt. He, I think, broke his collarbone a few months ago, so he's been out for the year. Tavon Jackson, obviously a highly touted 4-star. You have Nico coming in. Joe Milton locked in as QB1, depending on how the Orange Bowl goes. But, like, they're kind of tied to Milton for a while. But if Milton stinks, it's Clemson, then that kind of changes some things with how they go into this offseason. And I mean, there's a lot of pressure riding on how Joe Milton plays in Miami. And the expectation is how spring ball goes, like whoever finishes third in the depth chart is out. And it's not going to be Nico. Like, Nico's not finishing last, the 5-star probably number 1 overall prospect in the country. Purely physical tools. Like, he's just bigger than Arch, and he's more physically gifted than Arch based on everything you read. And doesn't mean he's going to be a better quarterback.
But no one's got him ranked higher than Arch.
That's not true.
Who's got him ranked higher than Arch?
There's evaluators who have him personally ranked above Arch. Yeah. I'm not talking about the whole composite for like an On3 or 247. You got to read different QB evaluators and recruit evaluators.
He's big time.
He's
you're
big time.
Splitting hairs when you're talking 1 or 2 or 3, whatever.
And you can't go wrong betting on a Manning to this point. I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't go down in that rabbit hole of betting against a Manning. That all being said, Maliava seems like a souped-up Marcus Mariota. But
well, so then maybe Devin Leary is not going Tennessee. But
no,
sorry,
I don't
what
think.
were you gonna say?
Well, here's what I was leading into with that. Leary wants to make a decision because school starts in a few weeks. Leary wants to be locked into his next team early. Like a lot of these guys, Grayson McCall wants to be enrolled for January. Classes start back in mid-January for a lot of these universities. Tennessee starts late. I think they're one of the latest universities to start back on January 30th. That all being said, these guys are not going to wait on what happens with Joe Milton in the Orange Bowl and like what he looks like in that one. Like a lot of those big names are going to be off the board. So any transfer quarterback who wants to compete with Joe in the spring are just going to have to wait it out because Nico's coming and they get to see what Tavon's going to do. But Tennessee might be screwed in that way where they're like, look, we cannot, like, Joe's our guy. He stayed this whole time. We have to commit to Joe. Nico's obviously on campus now, and then Tavon's nursing this injury. They just, their hands are kind of tied until spring ball when either Tavon or Joe leaves, depending on how the spring and this Orange Bowl goes. And then I don't know who's left in the portal by that point. You get what I'm saying? So it's like all those guys are going to be gone. So Tennessee, I'm sure, is interested in some of these, but they can't really do anything as of right now.
That makes sense. And so like Leary is one that does interest me, but also like Grayson McCall. Like how big time is Grayson McCall? Is it like is it a cute thing that he does over in the Sun Belt that can work at an SEC school? Like maybe, I'm not really sure. Like you said with Auburn, like that seems like a kind of a fit there, but also Brennan Armstrong. Like we saw a really good player in Brennan Armstrong in 2021. Still throws kind of funny, but we saw a good player in 2021, and he was an absolutely different player, just awful in 2022. Is it the new system he was in? Can he go somewhere and just have a complete rejuvenation and kind of show more of what he was in 2021? But also from two guys that we haven't seen. We've seen a little more of one, but like Jeff Sims, like he was pretty average at Georgia Tech, but I mean, that's not a great supporting cast at Georgia Tech. So he's a guy who seems like he's got some ability. So I'm kind of curious to see where someone like him ends up if he lands at like a mid-tier Power 5 school that can kind of, have a better supporting cast around him. And then also a Malik Hornsby, who you really haven't seen at all, but he's obviously an elite athlete. If he could get an assistant like a Malik Cunningham or something where he's a run-first, dual-threat guy or something like that. He doesn't seem like necessarily a Power 5 quarterback, but, we've seen so little of him, it's kind of hard to say at this point. But those seem like guys that kind of have a lot of upside that if they get in the right system, I think they could make a buzz as at their new school.
I have a take for you.
Hit me.
Georgia should go all out for Devin Leary.
I doubt that. I have a good feeling that Georgia is going to stick with the quarterback room they have, because I think Georgia could legitimately come out of spring practice without losing any of their 3 scholarship quarterbacks. And I'm blanking on his name right now.
Which one? Vandegrift, Gunnar Stockton, Carson Beck?
Beck. Yeah, There you go. Beck has played a lot in the backup role this year, and he's looked good. So, I think these guys are kind of buying their time. I don't know. I think going to the portal too much, I think, can kind of disrupt the way you've recruited, because since they have guys stacked on top of each other, theoretically, all of these guys could get a shot to be the starter if they stick things out at Georgia. That's most likely not going to be the case, but when you had a Fromm and Fields thing, obviously Fields was behind Fromm, but they're so close together. I feel like there's enough separation where, I don't know, these guys could all end up sticking it out. Georgia doesn't seem like a team that's going to go to the portal. If you're going to go to the portal for a quarterback, he needs to be a true difference maker. Maybe Devin Leary is good enough. You could just plug him into Georgia, but I don't know. That doesn't seem like something Georgia would do, if I'm being honest.
You say that, Matt Green, your quarterback now was a transfer. You look at Jamie Newman, Kirby dipped in the portal there. DeJuan Mathis.
Yeah, but that was a much worse quarterback room at that time. Jake Fromm, I think, kind of left Georgia high and dry. I don't think they necessarily expected Jake Fromm to leave early. And I think Stetson was the only other scholarship quarterback on the roster at that point. And then DeJuan Mathis, I think he was the recruiting class. He was the same recruiting class as Stroud was, whichever one that was. So, yeah, DeJuan Mathis and Stetson Bennett were the only ones that were on scholarship. You had to bring in Jamie Newman and JT Daniels.
Daniels, I forgot the other one. That's what I'm saying. He has a history. It's not out of the question. The difference between Georgia and Bama is Bama doesn't do it at all, with their quarterback. So when I was thinking about it, I'm Bryce is gone. Are they really going to trust Milroe or Ty Simpson? And it's yeah, that's kind of what Alabama does. You wait it out. You're going to be next in line if you wait it out. But Georgia has dipped in the portal in the past. I would just not be surprised if Georgia, I think it kind of depends on the same thing. Y'all are kind of in the same boat as Tennessee, where you have Carson Beck, who's waited his time. Tennessee's had Joe Milton. He's waited his time. They've shown flashes. They deserve the opportunity to be QB1, and you want to keep that culture happy of rewarding guys who stick it out and work to get better. But then you're going to lose one of the two talented ones. Tennessee's expected to lose either Taven or Nico, and it's not going to be Nico. And then you look at Georgia, it's Gunnar Stockton or Brock Vandegrift. I know you think you feel pretty good about those 3, but my gut, and just with the portal era, after spring ball, it's going to be clear who is not close to seeing the field and who's in that number 3 spot. They dip, and then Georgia probably enters the portal. I think they get a portal quarterback, kind of like Tennessee.
See, I don't think they're the same position at all, though, because Joe Milton has just had a lot bigger sample size of maybe potentially knowing what he is at Michigan and at Tennessee. He only started a game or 2 at Tennessee, but you at least have some idea of what Carson Beck, you've seen nothing of him, really. So there's no reason to think he's proven he can't do it. He obviously hasn't proven he can, but I think Stetson Bennett has shown, you stick it out here, anything can happen in this quarterback room, and you can be the starter. So, I think you're
but not
always...
everyone has that Stetson mindset is what you got to remember.
No, that's true, but
he wasn't a 5-star
Brock
premier
Vandegrift's
prospect.
Brock Vandagriff is also
Keeping up
from
the pedigree.
Athens, Georgia.
These guys want to play,
don't,
man. They want to get to the league.
Of
Stetson
course.
was a fan first and was never expecting to be an NFL player. I think it's a little bit different. His love and heart and loyalty towards Georgia is a little bit different than five-star kids.
No, and that's true. But at the same time, Stetson, I mean, was brought in on scholarship after Fields transferred. So like, they're obviously he was going, like, most likely I think Billy Napier at Louisiana is where he was going to go if he didn't get a job offer from Georgia. So obviously that's very different if his next best offer is University of Louisiana versus Vandagriff being an Oklahoma commit, ended up going to Georgia. But I don't know. I just don't necessarily I don't see Georgia going to the portal this class. Like, I don't think they're like above it from like a moral standpoint or something like Dabo tries to make it. Like, I think Kirby is definitely like kind of pat his own back about this team of like not taking any guys in the portal and like, that these guys love the university and all that. So I think there is like an element to that. But I mean, you've seen Ra Thomas. He's already on a visit to UGA. So like they took Darion Kendrick. They've taken, Lawrence Cager. They've taken plenty of transfers through the last few years, but
it's not how their bread is made. Like that's why Dabo was stupid. He took it as like, I'm not building it's like, no, the teams that have to build through the transfer portal are the ones who start, like what Heupel had to do to start his tenure at Tennessee. I think it's the way to jumpstart your program. But like I get texts from my uncles who are going to listen to this, where they ask me about transfer targets all the time, and they'll just see a name and they'll be like, "Is Tennessee going to go after him?" I'm like, no, because Tennessee's got 25 guys in this class, and most of them are 4-stars. Like the whole point is to recruit well, keep these guys happy, and you like build the program that way. And then whatever you lose, you fill out on the edges. The portal should be the edges for the premier programs, where it's like, oh, we have this one spot we need to fill in the portal, but by and large, your program needs to be mostly guys you recruited out of high school that have stuck with it and learned from the beginning, like how your program operates, all that kind of stuff. Like that's just, by and large, I think what every Power 5 job wants to be, and I think that's what Kirby does it probably better than anybody at this point. But to avoid the portal altogether and make it seem like it's this negative and like we're above the portal, it's just stupid because that's just the world we live in, and it's a way to just kind of flesh out the periphery of your roster, regardless of how talented it is. They can help.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just I think, I don't know, Dabo, just everything Dabo says just gets turned into just terrible. But it feels like it just kind of tone deaf. Like it's not. It doesn't mean that you don't care as much.
So you're not developing as well as you used to.
Yeah, you're not as mentally tough or something. It's like there's all kinds of different circumstances. Guys are trying to get to the league. Like you can't necessarily say someone's not mentally tough if they're trying to just get to the league and they don't think the place that they're at is going to help them get there. So, coaches make these professional decisions all the time to go from one program to the other. So the players are trying to do the same type of thing. And yeah, I think you could see some transfer portal stuff with Georgia's quarterback room like after the 2023 season. But I think just because it's so just kind of up in the open or out in the open, or what am I trying to say? Up for grabs. There you go. So the job is so up for grabs coming into 2023 that, I mean, you could see the guy who starts the season not be the one who finishes it, which has happened a bunch in Kirby Smart's tenure as the head quarterback or as the head coach. Is the guy who starts the first game, like half the years Kirby Smart's been the head coach, is not the guy who's finished the season. So I think you go into the season and injuries happen, things happen, and I think any of those guys, Stockton or Vandagriff, they just have so much eligibility left that there's no real reason to rush it and jump in the portal if you're not starting this season, or you're not starting in the spring this season.
We should make a bet. I think Georgia loses one of Stockton and Vandagriff this spring
before 2023.
Yeah,
I'll take that bet for sure. I don't think it'll happen.
Okay, we need to figure out. Let's do a dinner bet with our lovely wives. If I win, it's on you. If you win, it's on me.
There you go.
But the rule, how we will outline this is, they have to enter the portal in the spring after like spring ball during that window and actually leave. They have to leave.
So what are you saying? I'm saying they're going to be on the roster for the 2023 season.
I'm saying one of will not be on the roster for the 22. But we'll
Okay.
know because we'll know in the portal because they have the 2 opening dates. So I think after spring practice, whoever's number 3 on the depth chart's out.
Fair enough. Well,
I think
we
their
shall
plan is
see.
they want to do Carson this year or this upcoming year, and then Gunnar Stockton the year after. I think
they
Vandegrift
want.
knows his time is not
I think
gonna
they
happen.
want whoever's better. I mean, Vandegrift was way higher ranked coming out than Stockton was.
The stuff on Vandegrift, like his arm motion's weird. I remember reading that.
It is. He's an athlete, though.
Yeah.
He kind of surprised me in the spring how big and fast he is. I think Stockton is supposed to definitely be a dual threat as well. Stockton definitely feels like he's going to be a great college quarterback. Like, not necessarily an NFL
But he also feels
kinda
more like
guy.
a Jake Fromm to me.
He feels like a Connor Shaw to me, but maybe like a better passer. I don't know. Hey, if he can be as efficient as Connor Shaw was, but he feels like maybe I just think that because he was a South Carolina commit and that's just like in my head. But I don't know. He feels like the guy who's not going to be a pro prospect, but just a gamer, run around, make some plays with his legs, a Stetson Bennett type, if you will.
That's what I'm saying. He just feels more like what Todd Monken wants to do. I
think Todd Monken wants the best quarterback he can get.
I don't know. We'll see. Great name, though. Gunnar Stockton. Like, it's just such a great quarterback name in the South. Gunnar Stockton. Brock Vandegrift. Matt Green.
One thing I don't understand, Stetson Bennett, everyone loves to talk about his name. Like, his name sounds like this, he comes from wealth and royalty. Like, I've never thought that at all. Like the Southern aristocrat or something. Brock Vandegrift 100% sounds like one of those names, but I've never understood why people think like Stetson Bennett sounds like a lawyer or something. Like I don't know. People have always like Ryan McGee. You just hear mainstream media and stuff, SEC people talk about that all the time, and I've never really understood kind of how Stetson's name is like a snooty, a hoity-toity name or something. I don't know. Brock Vandegrift, I can feel you, but Stetson, I don't know. It's a cool name.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I don't think Stetson Bennett gives me that impression whatsoever. And as a noted spokesman of Southern quarterback names that may or may not sound snooty and or QB1, I can go ahead and cast a verdict here that
I guess there is
not snooty.
Fair enough. That's decided.
That's the verdict. That's not.
It is
like
Stetson Bennett the
immediate.
fourth. I think the Stetson Bennett the fourth thing. I think that's probably what people think. The legacy. I don't know. I think that has something to do with it.
I don't know. It's just when I hear Stetson Bennett, I don't think wealth. Arch Manning is a strong one. Arch.
But Brock Vandegrift.
Vandegrift,
Like I don't know. We won't make any generalizations about their character.
No, this is just based on you hear the name alone. Matt Green. Bowl games. They're coming about this week. We have actual bowl games to talk about.
We do indeed.
We're
coming to your city.
Coming to your city. No bowl games here, unfortunately.
If you want a little zing in your zang zang.
I
think is the lyric? That's the lyric, right?
I believe you.
Want a little ting in your tang tang? Is that what he says? You want a little zing in your zang zang? You hear that every morning. I know you watch. I start my Saturday with College Game Day with the theme song every morning.
No, I don't. I guess I never listened to it that intently, and now I got to go play it after we get off here. Because I don't know off the top of my head, but it sounds right when you're saying that.
You might have to bleep my last one. I don't know. Maybe it was inappropriate. I think that's the lyric.
I mean, there you go. We're just quoting here. No, this is it's bowl season, and for the good folks who had forgotten, it is me, your host, who won the college football regular season pick'em, and many are saying the expectation and assumption around sports podcasting right now is that I will follow through both in the bowl pick'em and projections, along with the college football playoff picks that are a separate thing because the college football playoff is separate than bowl season. So we judge them differently. Very annoyed that we still have 2 weeks to go. I want to see these games really bad. Like I really cannot wait to watch Michigan, TCU, and Georgia, Ohio State. They're going to be a lot of fun. I think this is the most excited I've been for 2 CFP semifinal games since it started. Do you feel the same?
I would probably say that because I think there was a lot of talk like, oh, Michigan's going to blast TCU like kind of right off the jump, and I'm not really that convinced. But I said to my brother kind of immediately because we were watching that USC Utah game together, and it was like I was like I wanted to play USC, like I prefer to play USC than Utah or than Ohio State, but it's like as soon as they lost, it's like the playoff is going to be way better with Ohio State, and it's going to be a sexier matchup. Like Georgia, Ohio State. This is one of like the juggernaut matchups we just haven't seen in college football. It's kind of when Oklahoma was playing Florida in the Sugar Bowl a couple years ago, and then half the teams opted out, so it didn't really matter. It's like there's just these certain brand names that just it's exciting when you see them. Two matchups you don't get to see too often.
For sure.
But also, I'm going to go back to Big and Rich here and confirm the lyric. It starts with, and if you want a little bang in your yin yang, if you want a little zing in your zang zang, if you want a little ting in your tang tang, come along, come along, come along, come along. Wow. Yeah, we're coming to your city. To your city, I think is the last one.
I would love to be the fly on the wall when he's writing these out. Zang when he's just strumming the guitar and he's like, that doesn't work. Zing zang.
He's like bing in your bang bang. That's stupid.
Oh my goodness.
Zing in your zang zang. Did you write that down? Yes, write that down. Yeah, it's hey, I'm not a singer songwriter, so Big and Rich, they're doing better than I am.
Hey, they're big and rich, man.
Truly.
Matt Green, bowl season. It's bowl pick'em season. We got all kinds of games to start off here. I will say right out of the gate, this Bahama Bowl business. Why did we stop calling it the or why? Like we're looking at this one. I was looking at Bahama Bowl.
Are you glazing over the corporate sponsor, sir? We're going to say each and every one of these corporate sponsors. That's the Hometown Lenders Bahamas Bowl to you, sir. You get that right. They paid good money for that sponsorship.
The Easy Post Hawaii Bowl? No, you're just the Hawaii Bowl. What are we doing? And then you also think about when you get older, like we're like, I hate all these sponsors. I want to go back to the Outback Bowl.
I want to go back to the Nokia Sugar Bowl, okay? That made sense.
But it's just, you don't, Tostitos Fiesta Bowl. That was what the Fiesta Bowl was. I'm tired of this corporate sponsorship stuff. But yeah, that was one of the dumber thoughts I remember. I was like, why am I mad at these changes? It's like, I'm attached to Outback Steakhouse having their...
Yeah. I will die on that hill though, because they were one of the more festive sponsors. They had like the whole Bloomin' Onion, like whoever with the winning team or something like... That was one of the better ones.
What is it called now?
Oh man, let me find it. It's in the one in Tampa. So it's Union Home Mortgage. Wait, that's the Gasparilla Bowl. So the Tampa's got two of them. It's the ReliaQuest Bowl. That's all. What is ReliaQuest? I don't even know what that is.
I don't know what ReliaQuest is either.
It'd be funnier if it was the ReliaQuest Outback Bowl.
That would be. I guess you can't do that. There's a conflict of interest.
Yeah, I think so. But you want to get into it?
Yeah. Also, we need to get big enough on this podcast where we can sponsor one like Jimmy Kimmel has the LA Bowl. Like just Jimmy Kimmel LA Bowl. That's insane.
Yeah, that's
I love Bad Boy Mowers Pinstripe Bowl. That's my favorite name. Bad Boy Mowers Pinstripe Bowl. What a name.
But that's another one. It's like the FedEx, the Fiesta, Tostitos Fiesta Bowl. It's like when it was the new era Pinstripe Bowl. It's like, yeah, I can get down with this. Yeah. But now it's the Bad Boy Mowers Pinstripe Bowl. But you know, this is the world we live in now.
It is.
But back to the Hometown Lenders Bahamas Bowl. We got the Miami of Ohio Redhawks and the UAB Blazers. Blazers are a 11-point favorite in this one. Miami of Ohio is 113th in the country in points per game this year. They are not good offensively. 6-6 coming in. Give me the Blazers.
Also really weird. I mean, is Coach Vincent going to be coaching this game for the Blazers?
I stopped trying to keep track of that.
Well, it's weird because the players wanted him to get the job, and then they went Trent Dilfer, which we'll see how that does. He's been killing it at Lipscomb, but I mean, we'll see. They are able to run all over everybody all year with Dwayne McBride and Jermaine Brown. Just almost 2,000 yards total for McBride coming into this year. But like you said, they're 11-point favorites in the Bahamas Bowl. I think they're going to be able to run all over Miami of Ohio. Miami of Ohio's not very good. So that's my strong take is UAB is going to get a win and head into the offseason with Trent Dilfer as the new leader of the Blazer program.
Shorter trip to the Bahamas from Birmingham than Ohio. I think that's going to be the key.
Okay.
Oh yeah, it's got to be, right? I mean, I didn't look it up, but Alabama's way further south. I feel confident in saying that it's way closer.
Wait, what do you mean? They're both going to Hawaii. Wait, whoa, hold on. What?
They're both going to the Bahamas.
Yeah, are you saying what? But what were you
saying?
saying?
Birmingham is closer to the Bahamas than Ohio is.
Do you think so?
How would it not be? Bahamas is like right off of Florida, like off the east coast of Florida, like right? That's where
yeah. Okay, hold on. So, I've lost my mind. I was thinking like when we were doing Bahamas. I have just had in my head for the last minute Hawaii when we were talking about the Hawaii Bowl. So I'm just like, why you're saying that? I'm like, no, it's the same day. Like, what are we talking about? Like, we're going west. Like, what are we talking about? Like, I'm just thinking Hawaii Bowl this whole time. I'm like, all right, there's Bahamas Bowl now and the Hawaii Bowl. My mind was in the Hawaii Bowl. So apologies. Yes.
There you go.
UAB is absolutely closer to.
I was very confused. I was like, I know my geography. All right, sir. Bahamas, one of the only place I've ever been outside the United States. Fun fact for you. I need to go more places.
I would want to see I would love to do airport watching. Can you imagine the weirdo who's just like a diehard Red Hawk fan and they're just like catching a red eye to the Bahamas for Miami versus UAB? You just see somebody at the airport walking around with just decked out Miami Red Hawk gear, and they're like, cannot wait for this matchup with UAB. Cannot wait.
How annoyed, actually, do you think those people are talking to anybody in the Bahamas? They're like, "Oh, I've been to Miami." And it's like, no, this isn't Miami. This is a different Miami. Like, different Miami? I've never heard of another Miami. Yeah. So it's going to have a conversation you're going to have. You have to have that conversation like 100 times. They're going to be rooting, but people in Bahamas will be rooting for Miami until they figure out it's in Ohio. But there you go. Keeping it on the 16th on Friday.
I've been winning covering, by the way. If you're scoring this at home.
Oh yeah. UAB, write that down.
Mm-hmm.
UAB winning and covering. We agree on that one. The Duluth Trading Cure Bowl in Orlando. This might be the best bowl of our slate this week. UTSA and Troy. We got two 11-2 teams coming to this one. Both of these teams, I believe, started 1-2 and have both won 10 straight. I was going back and forth on this one. What do you say?
It's another one of those matchups where, if you remember, Troy against Coastal in the Sun Belt title game, it was like, oh, is Troy going to be able with that defense? Because their defense is one of the best in the country, and it has been all year long. And you're like, can they score enough with the Coastal? It's like, yeah. Troy is in really, really good shape, but also UTSA, which I also love that Harris is coming back for like his 19th year for UTSA, and they keep Taylor. Again, I'm surprised he hasn't gotten picked up by a bigger school to this point, but UTSA 0-3 in bowl games. They have not won a bowl game yet, and this is obviously the first bowl for John Sumrall, new head coach at Troy. They have I kind of want to say that offense always wins, and like generally speaking, if it's a toss up, I go offense. But for me, even with Frank Harris, who's completing 71% of his passes, it's been big. I don't think they're going to be able to beat this Troy team. I like Troy's complete play. I like what they are doing defensively. The defense is good. And I think outside of that crazy loss to App State, they're good. and this defense has been this way all year long. Gunnar Watson's a good QB. He was fine and did enough, threw for 318 yards in that Sun Belt title victory over Coastal. It was just 12 passes. They can play keep away. Defense will be good. Give me the Troy Trojans to win and cover.
I'm going to have to go ahead and agree with you on that one, sir. I think, like you said, Troy's got a great defense, but they're also able to win games if they got to get in a shootout with somebody. So their offense can score if they need to. So, yeah, give me Troy to win and cover. And this next one, we got two very familiar foes in the Wasabi Fenway Bowl at Fenway Park, as you may have guessed. We got Cincinnati and Louisville. Louisville is a 2-point favorite in this one. But these teams go way back, sir. Conference USA. They both joined Conference USA from 1996 to 2004. Then both of them were in the Big East from 2005 to 2012. They go way back. This is the first time they played since 2013. I feel like, obviously, both of them are replacing their head coach in this one, so I'm trying to figure out who's more motivated. I'm also looking at the geography. We got Cincinnati and Louisville going to Boston. Similar distance. Both teams have to travel, no real advantage there. But I feel like Cincinnati's going to come in more motivated. I feel like Louisville, their coach, he didn't leave for a new job. Obviously, he left for Cincinnati. He didn't leave for an upgrade. He left because they didn't want him around anymore. It felt like you kind of feel the room. You guys want me to get out of here. I'm gonna get out of here. So from the moral high ground standpoint, I think the Cincinnati Bearcats have this one. So give me the Bearcats.
Interesting. Do you know who's coaching Louisville in this one?
I honestly don't.
Dion Branch.
Wow. So he's been on their staff?
Yeah.
I didn't even know that.
Dion Branch is coaching Louisville in this one. Kerry Coombs is coaching Cincy in this one. And this is also the first time this bowl game's ever happened. So last year, Virginia opted out in 2021, so the game didn't happen. And then COVID happened in 2020. So this is the inaugural Fenway Bowl because they've tried for 3 years now, and this is the first time it's actually happened.
Wow.
But look, man, I don't think Louisville is going to be able to win this football game. I think Cincy, like you said, I think it's an upgrade for Satterfield to go that way. I think, look, there's still a bunch of talent here. We'll see who's at quarterback for Cincy. I know that's still kind of up in the air. I know Bryant got hurt towards the end of last year and didn't play in the finale, so I'm curious to see what he does. But Cincy, I think, is in a better position right now. Weird vibes at Louisville. Jeff Brom will be taking over and cleaning house a little bit. But no, give me Cincinnati to win and cover in this one. Weird game, though, given the context of Louisville's coach Lilly leaving for Cincinnati.
Yeah, very strange. And then in Atlanta, Georgia, the only FCS game on our slate, the Cricket Celebration Bowl, Jackson State, North Carolina Central. Jackson State is a 16.5-point favorite in this one. Obviously, Deion Sanders is gone. I'm going to assume Shador isn't playing in this one for the
well,
for
no,
Jackson
Deion's
State.
Coaching.
Deion is coaching this game?
Yeah, I think they're all staying. I think that was part of the deal for Deion was he wanted to coach the Celebration Bowl. So I think they're all playing.
You can confirm this?
I'm pretty certain that was part of the deal.
I was feeling good about Jackson State anyway, being such a big favorite and just the talent advantage they have. But Deion's still coaching, then hammer that 16.5.
Yeah, I'm look, I could be wrong, but I'm pretty certain that he is he's coaching this one. Either way, yes, he is. Okay, I just looked it back.
Okay.
Yeah, that's weird. He's recruiting for Colorado, but also still coaching in the Celebration Bowl. But either way, he is going to be fine. I think they go out a winner. Jackson State has just been a powerhouse all year long, and this will be a fun one. NC Central, I think, is where Hendon Hooker's brother plays at, and I'm pretty sure that's where his dad went in North Carolina. But yeah, there you go. Go UNC Central, but I think Jackson State wins here pretty handily.
It's also where former North Cornet great Ibuka Anyora went, North Carolina Central, after he transferred from Georgia. So shout out to Ibuka. Also, did you hear?
He's at North Carolina A&T. Excuse me.
Okay. Sidebar. Did you hear Bomani Jones is being critical of Deion Sanders? Did you hear any of that? His comments about Deion Sanders? What did you think about that?
I don't.
Do you think? I mean, I should say. Do you think Deion did anything like dishonest about kind of leaving Jackson State, like kind of claiming to like doing something bigger for HBCUs and then bouncing kind of the first chance he got? Like, did you have any issue with that at all from what Deion did?
Let me say at the top, I don't pretend to have a firm grasp on HBCUs and what all he has specifically done at Jackson State, and just my main thing has always been like I'm reading and gaining different perspectives on his time at Jackson State and him staying. And like there was that dust up with him and Eddie Robinson Jr., if you recall, with Alabama State, where the coach said I think he said something like you ain't SWAC or you're not SWAC or something like that. Do you remember the dust up they got into post game with the handshake and stuff? And I think the undertone there was just that like we'll see if you stay around. Like you gotta stay. Like if you're really committed to this, then you gotta say no to those bigger jobs and keep building HBCUs back up from a football standpoint, and keeping it going, not just stopping at Travis Hunter, but continuing to get more and more big time players to revitalize these institutions, whether it's Jackson State, whether it's because like if he stays there the long he stays there, it gets more eyeballs and gets more attention to the other HBCUs, and potentially just a revitalization all across the board and getting more and more big time players, which hopefully leads to more money for the institutions, and I don't know, just a better health, right, for all the athletics department to cross the SWAC and HBCUs, because like you want to go compete against Deion, you want to go in a really fun league, right? But he obviously left for Colorado, which is not a humongous job, right? Like it's not a big time jump where it's like, oh, obviously you have to leave Jackson State for Colorado, but it's also like it depends on like what I guess he told recruits, right? Like I'm not privy to any of that stuff, so I don't know. But it's also, and I think Bomani made this point of like he didn't do anything differently than what any other coach has ever done. But that was the whole point. Like I could be getting it wrong, but based on what I heard from him on The Right Time, his podcast, was just that like, look, man, like he's doing what every other college coach has done, right? Where he's selling something and he's like, look, come here, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. And then there's enough money that comes up and it's like, I got to go. There's a better job. I'm at the Power 5 now, and he'll be at Colorado for a couple of years. And then my gut still says he's the next coach of Alabama. Maybe there's another job before then, but he'll bounce again. But that's what every coach has done. You know what I mean? So it's like Deion basically just proved that he's not any different than Nick Saban or Jimbo or Lincoln Riley is probably the most similar example to this point, where he was like the Oklahoma god, and you're like, oh, he'll never leave Oklahoma. That's a destination school, and then there's enough money in the location of USC, and then he left, and it's like he brought half the class. And I mean, he's bringing a lot of Jackson State kids, it looks like, to Colorado, but I don't know. I don't know enough, and I listen to other people like Pomani and other folks who've covered the program and covered Deion to this point. I think he's done a lot of good, and I think him leaving doesn't hurt anything that he's done to this point. Like he's still changed a lot of lives, done a lot for that community, put Jackson State on the map, and they're turning in the right direction, and they have a lot of momentum, and I hope they nail the next hire and they continue in the positive direction all across the board. But ultimately, I don't know. I don't feel comfortable having like a strong take on it because I don't know enough, and I'm not going to pretend to.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think, and I think like what Bomani Jones is saying was kind of being interpreted as like hating a little bit. That like, oh, he's just the same as every other coach. But I feel like it. I basically agreed with exactly what he said because this is what every other coach would do, and every coach would take Colorado over Jackson State. But I think the only negative you can kind of say is that maybe he sold this vision of what he was going to do for HBCUs and this whole like kind of movement. And it's like, was that ever really in the plan, or were you just, this happened to be the place that gave you your first head coaching job, so you were selling it how you could, and then as soon as the next best head coaching job opened up, you were just going to bounce? Like, more power to you. Like, that's what everybody's going to do. But I guess it just feels a little different because you were kind of claiming that this was part of a bigger thing of players going to HBCUs and things like that. But I mean, yeah, if you can say anything negative, I guess, that's what you would say. But, in the end, I have no problem with Deion going there, and everything he did for Jackson State while he was there is awesome. Like, things just out of his own pockets. Like, there's no clean drinking water in the damn city of Jackson, Mississippi, like for however long. I don't know if they've still fixed that. So he's just doing so much for that community and everything. So he obviously like left them off way better than they were when he got there, right? But did he actually improve HBCUs on the whole, like long term? Like, I'm not necessarily sure he did. And is that his job? Not really. So is that what he's claimed he was going to do? Maybe. But yeah, I didn't necessarily have a problem with anything Bomani said.
I think both people can be right in terms of like the folks who are rubbed off or rubbed the wrong way by it. I get it. And the folks who are like, look, it's what every other coach would do in this situation. I think those people are right too, right? Like, I don't think there's a right answer here. I think
if you were invested in HBCUs and you wanted this to be a movement, then yeah, you're probably pretty salty. But other than that, it's like he brought game day to an HBCU school. Like,
yeah,
they were talking about HBCUs. Like, it would have been nice if he hangs around. Maybe they get a big TV contract or something that can actually trickle to the other schools. But I think it really just helped Jackson State for a few years, and that's about it.
And we'll see what happens. We'll see if more, like, he may have started a movement there where we don't even know yet, where more big name coaches jump to HBCUs or former players, whoever it is, like, to revitalize different programs. It doesn't have to just be Jackson State. And maybe he's the starting point there, where they saw like the kind of success that Deion had there, and what he did for that program and did for State of Mississippi and Jackson, and they follow suit. Like, we don't know. Like, we saw Eddie George at Tennessee State. It's not like it was just Deion. So I think we'll see across the board. I know Hugh Jackson's at Grambling. I don't know. I think it's still too early to tell, and like I said, I hope for the best all across the board, and I don't think there's a right answer with the Deion stuff.
No doubt.
Just none of my business
quick,
with these guys. Like, I always get mad at like going at these people. Like, I'm like, it's none of my business, man, what these guys choose to do with their professional lives.
No, without a doubt. It's prime time. He's gonna go to the top, whatever he's doing. Keeping it moving to the SRS Distribution Las Vegas Bowl. We got the Florida Gators and the Oregon State Beavers. Oregon State is a 10-point favorite in this one. The spread is kind of scaring me a little bit, but I just look at this Florida team as low as I've been on Anthony Richardson all year. I would imagine Florida playing without Anthony Richardson is going to be worse. So it seems like most other conferences, when they're playing the SEC school in the bowl game, it's like their Super Bowl type thing. So I feel like Oregon State's going to come out with the motivation, and I don't think Florida's going to have it. So give me Oregon State to win and cover.
Interesting. Jonathan Smith just got an extension. Anthony Richardson has obviously opted out of this bowl game. We'll see the running back duo. Like, one of the things that scares me if I'm an Oregon State fan is just like Florida was able to run all over people all year long, whether it was Etienne or Johnson. But Etienne looks like he's a dude at Florida, and I think he's going to be a really good player there in Napier's scheme. They just don't have the receivers. Like, part of it, like, I don't I don't know if Florida's going to be able to score enough to keep up with Oregon State. I think people are undervaluing what the Beavs are to this point. They beat Oregon. They beat a much better team than this Florida team, and they had a lot of big wins this year. 9-3 for Jonathan Smith. Like, I think it's a little offensive to discount the Beavs as much as I've seen people discount them. Like, is Jack Miller the quarterback for this one for Florida? Is that who it's going to be? No, not doing it. I think the Beavs win and cover. I don't. And 6-7 for year one for Napier. Oof. I think he has to win 8 games next year to keep some heat on him.
That could be back-to-back 6 and 7 years for the Gators. And they were quietly having such a solid first year for him. Like, if they just finished out those last two versus Vanderbilt and Florida State, like, this is a completely different just vibe to the end of the season. Honestly, not even the Florida State game, because that Florida State's a good team. If they just don't lose to Vanderbilt, that just completely just soiled the whole season, basically. And Las Vegas is an X factor, because obviously Oregon State on the West Coast, much closer to Vegas, but Vegas being such a destination town, you don't necessarily know who's going to have the bit better showing. Florida, I would imagine, has a bigger alumni base than Oregon State, so they may travel for this one. I'm curious to see what the fan breakdown in this game is. Keeping it moving to the Jimmy Kimmel LA Bowl in Inglewood, California. Washington State and Fresno State. The Bulldogs come into this one 8 straight wins. Also, Fresno State's a 3.5-point favorite in this one. Washington State, 5 losses this year to 5 ranked teams. So we know how good there's 6 ranked teams in the Pac-12. Washington was beating everybody else, but they couldn't beat any of those good ranked teams in their schedule. So I don't know exactly what to expect. Are they just a really good team in a tough conference, or were they just kind of middle of the road but lost to their good teams? I think I'm going to go Fresno State in this one. I honestly was going back and forth, so it's a toss-up to me. So give me the Bulldogs.
Jake Hayner's back for this one, which is big for them. He hasn't thrown a pick in their last 5 games. I don't think this is a good matchup for the Cougs. Like, I think this offense is rolling. Fresno State has won 3 straight bowl games, 2 of them with Jeff Tedford. Wazoo, they had a big win against Wisconsin earlier in the year. Cam Ward's been okay. He hasn't thrown a pick of late either, but they're more of a defense first team, and I don't know if they're going to be able to score enough. Like, Fresno beat a good Boise team who was also on a big win streak in the Mountain West title game. I think this is Fresno should turn out pretty well. This should feel like kind of like a home game for Fresno for this one a little bit. But yeah, I'm not completely sold on the Cougs right now and Jake Dickert and what they've got going on up there. They're okay. They're fine, but I think Fresno is rolling, and this is a 10-win season on the line for the Dogs. So give me Fresno to win and cover.
Have we agreed with every pick so far? This is getting a little ridiculous here.
Oh.
But, you gotta go with what you think. Keeping it moving, the
Wait,
lending
did we both go
tree.
Cincy? We both went Cincy. We both went UAB. We both went Troy. I guess so. I thought you for sure you'd go UTSA. Like, I couldn't believe you went UTSA or went Troy.
Oh yeah, man. I'm a defense guy. You know this. The Lending Tree Bowl, Mobile, Alabama. This is an easy one. Rice versus Southern Miss. There is one team playing in the postseason this year that has a losing record, and that is the Rice Owls. They got no business being in here. We got how many daggum bowl games, as Bobby Bowden would say. I don't know. How many do we have now? Is it like 50? There's like 48 bowl games or something. I don't know. It's getting out of hand. But I'm going Southern Miss because Rice is they shouldn't be here in the first place.
But it's not Rice's fault. There weren't enough eligible teams.
It is Rice's fault. They should have turned it down. You don't belong here, Rice.
Can I pivot?
Yeah, hit me.
Rice deserves whoever's coaching right now. I'm blanking on who the head coach of Rice football is at the moment. He should get a raise.
Tell me you don't know the Rice is head coach? Come on, man. You're a college football guy.
Why is Rice in the FBS, Matt Green? Has Rice ever been good in our lifetime? Like, this is one of the worst FBS schools year over year. It doesn't matter who their coach is. They just are awful. To make a bowl game, when I saw Rice was on the calendar here, I had to do a double take. I don't remember the last time Rice was in a bowl game. Like, what? When was the last Rice bowl game, Matt Green?
Mike Bloomgren is their head coach, and they actually do have a respectable history in the 2000s. 10-4 back in 2013.
They've only been to 13 total.
2008.
They've made 13 bowl games.
They're not a juggernaut by any means, but yeah, haven't been to first bowl game since 2014. Rice, they've been really bad though. You're right. In recent history, a lot of 2-1, 3-loss seasons.
Here's something that I think is interesting.
1, 2, and 3 win seasons. I meant to say, not loss seasons. 1 and 2 and 3 loss seasons are good seasons.
There you go.
To correct myself.
Southern Miss is 5-1 when it allows fewer than 150 rushing yards in this one. The Rice offense stinks, and I just don't think they're going to be able to do enough to stop my guy Will Hall, who's a friend of the program, been on the podcast. He was one of my favorite interviews. A West Georgia guy. He's bounced around, but he wears the full suit and tie on the sidelines. One of the few coaches who's rocking that. So shout out to my guy Will Hall. It's first postseason game for the program since 2019, but they weren't great. Like, they were on a 3-game losing streak before they beat ULM to get into this bowl game. I think this is going to be ugly. I think there are going to be a lot of turnovers on both sides, and it's going to be gross. So give me Southern Miss to win, but I would not be surprised if Rice wins this football game, Matt Green. Both are terrible. Both are not deserving of a bowl game here.
Yeah, Southern Miss is also, they were a respectable program throughout our adolescent, early adult years, and they've been real bad the last decade or so.
Well, your guy Todd Monken.
Ever since Todd Monken left them, that's really when they went downhill.
Where are we going next, Matt Green?
Keeping it moving. Where are we going next? You said Southern Miss, right?
Mm-hmm.
So keeping it. We're still agreeing on all these. No sponsor here in Albuquerque. Just the New Mexico Bowl. Keeping it like Soul Skaters, you big Brink guy.
Yeah.
They don't need that's corporate sponsor. Team Pup and Suds or something. Is that what it was in Brink?
That was a sponsor though.
SMU versus BYU in the New Mexico Bowl. This is like a perfect, I'm talking geography. This is like a perfect geographical matchup. I don't know if you looked this one up on Google Maps. No, Dallas and Provo are like, I didn't actually search the distance. I just kind of eyeballed it, the way the crow flies. Dallas and Provo are like equidistant from Albuquerque. So this can be a nice, interesting matchup from that perspective. But I like BYU. I think BYU, they're trending in the right direction right now. I think this is going to be a really good game. So give me the Cougars.
Wow. Here is our first disagreement on the pod, Matt Green. Jaron Hall will play, it looks like, even though he's going to be entering the draft for the Cougs. But look, S&P Plus, SMU is 55th, BYU 74th. I mean, BYU has a couple of big wins this season, Boise and Baylor. But look, man, top 10 offense in the country, quietly, led by Tanner Mordecai, 7th in S&P Plus just offensively. They're good, man. This is two high-profile offenses, but SMU with Tanner Mordecai, 3,300 yards, 31 touchdowns. Like, he's been great. They will not have Rashee Rice, who opted out for the NFL, so that will hurt for SMU. But man, I'm not betting against this Rhett Lashley offense with the Stanks. So give me SMU to win and cover, Matt Green. But this will be I think this is going to be a high-scoring back-and-forth game.
Yeah, this is the 123rd ranked scoring defense in SMU versus the 101st ranked scoring defense for BYU. Both these teams giving up over 30 points a game. So it'll be fun. New Mexico Bowl, 7:30, Saturday. That should be an entertaining one.
Now we have rooting interest, Matt Green. You're going to be going Cougs. I'll be going Stangs. Be fun.
There you go. And our last one of the of this section until we get back to our next pod, the Frisco Bowl in Frisco, Texas. Not to be confused with, I thought there was 2 bowls in Frisco. Now I might be lying. I think last year, did Frisco lose a bowl game? Frisco definitely had 2. They had the Tropical Smoothie Cafe Frisco Bowl last year. That's what I was looking for. So last year we had the Tropical Smoothie Cafe Frisco Bowl and the Frisco Football Classic presented by Ryan. And this year, I guess we just have the Frisco Bowl, unless I'm missing something here. But yeah, so I guess I don't know. Not important.
You're really upset about this.
You talk geographical advantage, sir. This is the game you want to talk about. Mm-hmm. North Texas is 30 minutes away from Frisco, Texas. This game's being played in their backyard. North Texas, the Mean Green, are going to have the home field advantage in this one. And I think that is going to be the difference. What is Boise State? 10.5 point dog? Or 10.5 point favorite? North Texas wins this one outright. Give me the Mean Green.
Wow, we're going to disagree again, sir. Seth Luttrell got fired after the season. They lost and got blown out 48. Was it 48? Where'd it go? 48-27 against UTSA in the CUSA title game. Their veteran head guy, Phil Bennett, will take over for this one. Boise State obviously losing Hank Bachmeier in the middle of the year didn't turn out to be the end because Dirk Cutter and company got this offense on track and they won, I think it was 8 straight leading into the Mountain West title game, and they lose to Fresno. But look, man, I don't know. North Texas lost 5 of 7 in 7 of their last 8 bowl games. So they've been really, really bad in the bowl season. They've been blown out the last 4 times they've been in a bowl game. I don't know. I don't see this being an issue for Boise. I think they're going to be able to score all over this North Texas defense. That's 124th in total defense. They're going to pick this team apart. I think Boise State wins and covers. Don't go against the Broncos, man.
Boise State went at Oregon State this year. They lost.
That's true.
They went at UTEP this year, and they lost big.
Mm-hmm.
They did lose to BYU. That was a home game. But this is going to be a home game for the North Texas Mean Green. I'm telling you, they're not prepared for the atmosphere they're about to come into in Frisco. So
many people do talk about that atmosphere in Frisco, Texas.
I think Boise State's not ready for that. So I can't go against the Green. The Mean Green, come on, that's my squad. So that's what we got to do. So yeah, we got, what is that, 8 matchups? We got 9 matchups we got for this first slate. So it should be good. We will be back to pick the next game starting on the 19th on the next podcast.
There you go. Matt Green, that's all I've got, my friend. And I will talk to you on Sunday, sir.
Yes, sir.